Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to Doing Business in Bentonville. My name is Andy Wilson, and I'm the executive leader, and we have got such a great podcast for you today. I can't wait to introduce you my guest. She is really, really something. You're going to love her. I want to tell you, she's so talented, and we're going to talk about her. But Megan Marshall, welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, it's great to see you. You're looking great as always, and all the way from Philadelphia. We're just glad you're here. And we're going to talk about your great company, AIIR Consulting. Megan, I will tell you, I know when I seen you over a year ago, I listened to your presentation, and as you talked to the board of directors for a nonprofit part of AIIR Consulting, a nonprofit called Elevate. And Megan, it was just so good to meet you then. And I'm so excited, as I mentioned, to have you on the program. And we have a lot to talk about today. But before we get into our topic, let's talk about this great company called AIIR Consulting. Again, I mentioned it's located in Philadelphia, but it's a global company. And Megan, why don't you just share with us the focus of AIIR?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks so much, Andy. And it's a pleasure to be here with you for this podcast. So a little bit about AIIR. So at AIIR, we really work to increase the performance of leaders and their organization. And we do this by fusing together our proprietary leadership framework, our proven approach to behavior change, which is really our AIIR method, and our real world business expertise. So we fuse these things together to help our clients build better leaders, better teams, better organizations, in the hopes of really building a better future.
Well, I will tell you, you all do a great job. And for our viewers, and we have a series that we've been working through with AIIR. And I will tell you, I want to encourage you to listen and watch each of the series because they're just excellent. And one of the things that I just am so impressed that AIIR does is how they really work with organizations and team members to improve effectiveness and performance on the individuals and ultimately the team. And I would tell you, there's so much that you do, and we're going to get into that because Megan Marshall is the Chief Customer Officer, and she is head of executive coaching at AIIR Consulting. So, Megan, tell us a bit about what that means. What is that role? Because it's extremely important to what AIIR does globally for their clients and the leaders they work with.
Absolutely. So I lead our executive coaching services, and AIIR really started first with offering executive coaching. Our CEO and founder, Jonathan Kirshner, was on track to become a clinical psychologist, and he took a class on executive coaching and was amazed by this idea of the cascade effect and the impact that coaching can have, not just on an individual, but like you said, Andy, on a team, on the organization, and broader. You know, there's such a tremendous amount of impact that can happen with executive coaching and leadership development. So in my role, I oversee all of our coaching services and really serve as our executive coaching subject matter expert. And then I also oversee all of our coaches globally. So right now we have about 200. We offer services globally. So everything from interviewing to coach selection to training, onboarding, ongoing quality assurance and development. Those are all things that I oversee on a day-to-day basis.
Well, one of the important things I see that you do, and then I when we were together at the meeting last year, I know that one of the things you have is AIIR has such a high standard and expectation for the coaches. The thing that I was so impressed with, Megan, when you spoke with us, you talked about that the importance of the coach staying equipped and ready for the latest information technology that leaders and company faced. You really talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
So tell us how you keep your coaches so up to date and current on what's happening and what the future may bring to organizations and leaders.
Absolutely. We have We have the best coaches at AIR. And something that is really critical when we're interviewing is to bring on coaches that want to be a part of a learning community and constantly becoming better at what they do. So we do that through one, we have a monthly meeting called Discovery that serves as our kind of coach supervision meeting where we share business updates and coaches will share about engagements that they're working on, because we understand that coaching, and it might be weird to think about this, but it can be a lonely profession. And so it's very important that we are working together to make sure that we're supporting our clients at our very best. We also offer quarterly lunch and learns where we're upskilling and training our coaches. We have a consultant community hour every 3 weeks where coaches come together in order to be able to support and dialogue over challenges that they're experiencing. And then we also, and right now I'm really in the midst of planning this, we have a annual coach summit that we'll have our fifth one this September. And so that will be an opportunity for all of our coaches to come together in person for a time of learning, aligning on AIR, and really being inspired and working together. So community for us is very important. And I really think it's a differentiator in terms of how we think about and support our clients.
I do too. And we're going to get into some of the things in just a moment, that in more details, but I wanted to set the ground rules, or just level the ground, if we so the people that are listening and watching us, they understand that the talent that AIR Consulting has, that talent is continued, developed, and taught and coached themselves, if you will. And it's a great community of over 200 coaches that you talked about. Yeah. And that's the hard work on the front end, and the most and very critical. So that I want us to move and talk about some of the work you do with organizations and leaders. But is there anything else that you'd like to add that's so important that you do with your coaches?
That we do with our coaches. I think we've really touched on it with the community and the support that we offer. I will say that we have a very robust onboarding process. One of the things that's really a differentiator for AIR is that we provide, tech-enhanced coaching services. So at the end of the day, coaching is a human relational process, but we enhance what we're doing through technology. So we have a proprietary coaching platform called Coaching Zone that is there to be really a support throughout the coaching experience. So we do a lot of work with our coaches to make sure they're onboarded, and in turn, that provides really important and vital talent and kind of coaching analytics back to the organizations that we serve. And I would say that's another key differentiator.
That's wonderful. And I think that's why AIR has become such a global company and so well respected globally by companies and by leaders that are very involved in your services. So again, great job. You're doing great on that, because that's really key. Now, one of the things that we want to just sort of dive into, Megan, is talk about what are some of the unique challenges that you see that leaders are facing at the top of the organizations? Because you have privilege to all of this. You see it globally. You listen to the coaches. You hear the feedback. What are some of those issues to share with our viewers? And then, what do we need to do about that?
Yeah. At AIR, we really have the opportunity to work with the senior most executives. And, we see this in data, in terms of trends with CEOs are leaving in record numbers. I saw a stat from Challenger that more than 1,500 CEOs have left their job. This, I think, was at the end of February, and that there's a 49% increase, from February last year to February this year in terms of CEOs that are leaving their positions. And it's an astounding number. And so we think about what is it around senior most executives not being able to be successful. Typically these are the best and the brightest in their fields. They move into these senior level roles or senior most roles. And really there's tremendous pressure to drive growth, There's geopolitical tensions, economic issues, unsettled investors, quarterly results, health challenges, things like aging parents and other, just personal life issues, where it can become really, really challenging for executives to succeed at the senior most levels. And I think, I've even heard stories recently that, people are having to move into C-suite level roles faster than ever before. I heard from, an executive search firm recently that, somebody that they might see ready to move into that CEO role, they might start interviewing for that role 5 years before they're ready. And so really giving them the experience that they need in order to understand what's it like to interview for a CEO position. And what's happening, they go to these interviews 5 years before they're ready. And what happens? They get offered the job. And it's like, wow, that's great. You think I'm ready. They're excited for me to take on this top role. I'll do it. But then when they move into that role, they're very unprepared. They are not given the time and space that they need in order to be able to get up to speed. They don't have time to settle in. They're expected to produce results really quickly, and they need support in order to be able to think through and share their doubts, anxieties, frustrations, and really receive support and guidance. And that's really what we offer through our executive coaching services at that C-suite level.
Well, I had no idea that 49% of senior leaders, CEOs, are leaving the positions. I did not realize that is catastrophic.
Yeah, that's from a point in time this year versus a point in time last year. But if you look at the trend, it's trending up, and this is continuing to happen where the turnover is happening really fast.
I can see now why you spend so much time with your coaches, equipping them, making sure they're equipped to handle this type of transition that's taking place at the top of these major companies and these global companies. Is this? Here's a question: do you see that it's a certain part of the globe this is happening more, or is it just broad that these CEOs are leaving these positions at that rate?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Honestly, I think I see the trend more by industry. I would say more so than, around the globe. So for example, I think the retail sector is really being hit hard, and there's a lot of change that's happening there. So I think it would be more of a trend that's industry specific rather than globally. But it's a really good question.
Well, if you mention the retail, because that's my background, retail and omni-channel, and that's much of where I spend my time with my podcasts. And I will tell you, I see that. And one reason is the transition that retail has taken to e-commerce and away from brick and mortar, or brick and mortar and both. There's tremendous amount of transition taking place in that entire industry. And I can see that. That would be definitely a major area.
I think there's that I can think of even recently, has it been over the past year, Bed Bath & Beyond, Dollar General, Walgreens, it's happening quite frequently.
You're right. All those is happening. Now, I know that as you look at leaders and the challenges, are there any other challenges you see that leaders are facing?
Yeah. I think we've talked a lot on the big ones. I think overall, everything's moving very fast with technological advances, with AI, and I think mostly it's that they're moving into the roles too quickly, almost too early in their career. And so they're not getting that time to develop, where maybe somebody wouldn't have taken on that top position until later in their career. They may be doing it about 10 years older. And one of my mentors likes to say it takes 60 years to make a 60-year-old. And that, in some ways, you need that experience, and you don't have it, and you can't really gain it until you have those years. So what type of support can be given in order to set these leaders up for success?
That's such a great point.
Yeah.
I noticed there's a recent poll from Stanford Business that you mentioned. Can you talk about that?
Yeah,
That recent
that's a
that has
that's a
see
good point.
each week.
Yeah, it's a good point. It basically said that while nearly all C-suite leaders want outside leadership advice,
Mhm.
most nearly 2/3 don't receive it. And why is that? Why is it so hard for
Mhm.
the senior most leaders to receive advice? And it tends to be that the higher up that you go in an organization, the less likely it is to receive feedback. You hear that a lot about like it's lonely at the top. Um, and and why is that? And I'm actually, curious your perspective on it too, from being, a former CHRO at Walmart. Did you experience that? And what do you think about that in terms of not being able to get feedback when you're at a senior level?
Well, I mean, we used outside coaching and internal, also training development but we used so much outside coaching for our C-suite level. But you are exactly right. When I read that, I remember this. It. First of all, the C-suite level leaders are so busy. They're solving problems continually and all day long. They're dealing with issues and problems, and they don't take time to sharpen the saw, as Covey taught us. Covey leadership said, sometimes you got to stop and sharpen the saw. And we it was hard to get our leaders to stop and sharpen the saw and to get with subject matter experts and to really work on their individual development and work on their skills, because you can't just, in this environment, you can't just be an operator and just execute. You've got to have you got to have the people skills. You got to understand how to navigate those things and listen. There's so many other skills that great leaders must have today in order to be successful.
Mhm.
And it was very challenging for us to equip them with those skills needed in order to lead a global company.
Yeah.
And so we had the same issue. We did.
Yeah.
And we never solved it completely.
Right. It's challenging. If you think about a CEO and, let's say I'm a VP in an organization, I'm not probably going to go up to my CEO and say, hey, I really don't think you led that meeting most effectively. CEOs are like, we want feedback. I have an open door policy, but there's this fear, as an employee that if I actually share, it's not going to be received well. And have you ever heard the expression, no one will tell me my baby's ugly kind of situation where it's like you need that outside objective sounding board that can tell you the things that you don't want to hear in that trusted, safe relationship.
Right.
Because oftentimes without that, you're not going to receive it until it's too late. Typically, by the time the board comes and tells you it's not going well, they are already planning for you to leave.
And that's what I think AIR does so well. I think with the coaches that I know and then the reputation that you all have and what you've talked about, what you do with your 200 plus coaches, you really spend time equipping them to have those hard conversations with those leaders. And there is a right way to do that. And I have friends and companies where you have coaches actually working with them, and they tell me that that's one of the things they love about AIR coaching is that they're able to sit down with them and tell them the truth, and then let's talk about how we solve this. Let's talk about how we develop you. Here are the ways we can do that for you, and I think that's critical. And again, I have third parties that work. I don't know if I've ever told you that. I work with some AIR coaches, and that's exactly. They're very complimentary, but I think it comes back to what you said at the very beginning: the work that you do and lead for the coaches. Mm-hmm. So I think that's critical. Yeah. So keep that up. You're doing good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I'd like to know who you know, but I really appreciate the feedback.
Okay, now let's talk about something. What is trusted leadership advisory. What is that? Tell us about that. I noticed you have that, but I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so that's really the space that AIR is seeing a lot of growth. And so this is moving from kind of more traditional executive one-to-one coaching to coaches moving into the role of a trusted leadership advisor. And so when you think about traditional coaching, as a coach, you really believe that the person that you're working with, the coaching client, has everything that they need inside them in order to be able to manage and handle the challenges that they face. Or with a trusted leadership advisor, they really are bringing their expertise and business knowledge and using that trusted relationship in order to support their client. So at AIR, we have a definition that we use here for a trusted leadership advisor. So this is an external. The external's key. Elite coach or highly experienced executive development consultant who establishes trust with their client and plays a central role in the executive's ability to confront and deal with the complexity, ambiguity, and intensity of their leadership role. So they are integrating their business knowledge with an insight-oriented approach and really serving as confidants to those that they work with. So, they're external to the organization. I think that's key. I think that there's a place for internal coaching and it being used effectively in thinking about overall leader development strategy. But I think for these C-suite positions, having that external sounding board is key. Second, being able to establish that trust with their clients, serving as a confidant, that's critical. And then really the trusted leadership advisor is being more directive and challenging in consulting more so than your kind of traditional executive coaching.
Wow, I think that's wonderful. Again, if you're listening to us and are watching this and you're working in a company and you work with a senior leadership or you're a senior leader, second time to this, what you just said is critical. That trust advisor, every leader needs that, no matter what your role is in the organization. If you have major responsibility, you need to be able to speak with someone that you can trust. And I think trust is, I tell my team, I said, some people will follow you as far as they trust you. And having a trusted advisor is critical. Building a team of trust, and you as a leader, the leader being, a person of integrity and trust is critical. And I've seen that in my career, where when someone loses trust, they will eventually lose their role of responsibilities. So critical. I love that. That's a great addition. Now, what else? Do you have anything else you want to talk about with coaches?
Yeah. So with our trusted leadership advisory, how we do that at AIR is called AIR Vista. And that's our name for our trusted leadership advisory services. And I love the name because you think about your career. What are you doing? You're moving up. You're moving up the ladder. You're ascending. You're working on your development and who you are as a leader. And when you think about AIR Vista, it's really about looking out at a vista. You have that 30,000 foot view. You're up at the top of the organization. But what we know, and what I talked about earlier, it's really easy to kind of lose that 30,000 foot view. It's can very quickly be bogged down in all of the pressures and the anxieties that come with being a C-suite executive. And so AIR Vista is our trusted leadership advisory model that's really leveraging our AIR method. So I haven't said this yet, but AIR Consulting, it's spelled AIIR, even though we pronounce it like the air you breathe. And it stands for a methodology for everything that we do. So assessment, insight, implementation, reinforcement. So AIR Vista is still leveraging our model. So assessment, in order to change, you need to know what needs to change. So the trusted leadership advisor here through AIR Vista will conduct a 360 psychometric assessments, really helping the leader understand who they are and where they are in the context of this senior most role. Insight is about making meaning from those assessments and coming up with very targeted development plan goals. Implementation is about taking action on those goals and making progress. And then our reinforcement for us is critical. What we see is that it's not that hard to change. Many of us have New Year's resolutions, but how many of us actually keep them? So coaching and really through our AIIR Vista model, it's so critical to continue to practice new behaviors, continue receiving that support so that AIIR Vista, trusted leadership advisor is going to be able to check in like, hey, I know this is a pattern for you that you operate this way. How is this going in this situation? They're able to pull that insight out to be able to speak to the current leadership challenges that the leader's facing. So that reinforcement piece for us is critical. So that's just a little bit about our model and about AIIR Vista.
Well, I will tell you, you did a great job summarizing AIIR Consulting, because that's exactly right. There's nobody, I mean, you did excellent. And let me just say to all of our viewers and listeners today, AIIRconsulting.com. You got to go check them out. It's an excellent website. It lists all of their services, how they do it. You can really look at this company. You've heard from great leaders throughout AIIR talk about their services, talk about how they work with senior leaders, how they work with companies. I highly recommend this great company. It's one of the best companies I've ever been part of. Megan, you did such a great job of talking about your coaches and talking about how much time you spend keeping them current and up to date and equipped to handle with what's facing leaders in these global companies. Great job today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Great job. Wonderful talking with you. A pleasure to be here.
Okay. Now, what we have to do before we let you get out of here, okay, we got to talk about your education, because one of the things I'm so impressed with is that when I was reading her bio, at the very end of her bio, she talked about two things. One, she talked about her dog and a golden doodle, and I think that's awesome. But then there's this one word down there called war eagle. Mm-hmm. Now, for all of our friends around the world, let me tell you what a war eagle is to this Southern guy that went to the University of Alabama for my undergrad. We're competitors. That war eagle's from Auburn University in Alabama. I went to the University of Alabama, and what are we doing? I couldn't believe I read that.
I know. I was raised, a lot of my family is from the great state of Alabama. It's been hard for me not to pick up on more of my Southern accent here in this conversation, but was definitely raised with a love of all things Auburn and sports and SEC football. So enjoy the rivalry. Wish it would have gone better for us in March Madness, but Alabama had a good run there with the Final Four. So congrats.
Yeah. Well, Megan graduated summa cum laude from the College of Charleston with a BA in corporate communication. And then you received your master's in talent and organization development and executive coaching from McCoy School of Business at Queen's University.
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful education. Anything you want to talk about there about your education?
Yeah, I think, one thing that was interesting for me joining AIIR, I had a background in leadership development, but really working for both for-profit and nonprofit organizations. And so when I started at AIIR, I wanted, Jonathan, the CEO, he's the clinical psychologist. And so I wanted more of the academic rigor in terms of how do we really think about how organizations change. And so that led me to pursuing my master's in talent organization development and executive coaching, just to give me more of the research and the grounding as to why what we do has the impact that it does and how we can help organizations tell the story about the impact that executive coaching, team development, and leadership development can have on their organizations.
Well, you did a great job today. It's such a pleasure to have you on. I enjoyed our conversation as I have with each of the leaders of AIIR. Again, great company. You've heard us mention Jonathan, the CEO, founder CEO, and you again go to their website, AIIRconsulting.com. You'll get to meet the people. You'll get to read much about the company and hear about the company through their videos and information there. And I will tell you, Megan, this has been such a pleasure.
Yeah.
It's good to see you. It's good to have a conversation with you. And I hope to see you in person soon.
Yes, Andy, one quick thing I thought I should mention. We are having a webinar that we're hosting in May in conjunction with Wharton and Microsoft on AI and leadership. And so if you go to airconsulting.com, definitely see that. I think it's going to be right after Memorial Day, that Tuesday, but really looking forward to that conversation with some top industry leaders. So definitely, if you go to our website and check us out, be on the lookout for information on that.
Okay, and we'll put that on our website also, doingbusinessinbentonville.com. To all of our viewers and all of our listeners, thank you so much. It's been wonderful. We all really appreciate you. I was told just recently, and I want to thank all of our viewers and listeners because you are just making it so wonderful for doing business in Bentonville. I was told that we're in 22 countries now, so thank you for what you're doing. We appreciate your loyalty. We appreciate that you keep checking us out. Continue to stay with us. You can check us out on all the social media platforms. LinkedIn, of course, we're there. You can message us back on LinkedIn. Of course, we're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. Check us out there, or go to our website, doingbusinessinbentonville.com. Thank you very much, Megan. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.